Hi everybody. Today we're going to go over how to create a patch cut out with a laser. This could also work for other applications such as a vinyl cutter, CNC engraver, etc. First of all, let's go ahead and open up Corel Draw. I'm using 2018. It's important to note that for some of these features I'm going to be using, you do need a full version. I am using a education license or an education version, not to be confused with the student version. It's an actual full version for students and educators. First of all, let's go into Workspace. I have mine set up as X6 inspired. Default looks very similar to mine. Light is going to look different. So I would recommend either going with X6 inspired or default. So let's go ahead and click on Get Started. I'm going to create a new document. It's going to bring up a couple options. First of all, it's going to want to know a name. I'm going to do Tucker Speed Hat Patch. I'm going to leave this particular artboard at 10 inches by 10 inches. It's a convenient size for me. Most of the things I design are either this size or a similar size to it. If you prefer to use millimeters or pixels or whatever you prefer to use, I prefer inches. I only want one page. I'm going to use CMYK, which is used for print. RGB is used for electronic distribution, but can also be used for print. Your computer will just convert it to CMYK, and it may not give you the desired colors. So if you design it in CMYK, it's usually safer. The rendering resolution, I'm going to leave at 150 dots per inch for this project. That's more than sufficient. We're dealing with vector graphics, so it doesn't even really apply. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. First thing we need to locate is our pick tool. If for whatever reason yours isn't in this corner, click and hold. Go to pick. We're going to use our rectangle tool. That's already there. We also need our contour tool, which is right here. It's just hidden. If you notice, it has this little white arrow on the corner of these ones that if you click and hold, has a drop down. So I'm going to click and hold, go to contour, and release. So let's go ahead and get started with our patch shape. For this particular patch, I'm going to use a rectangle shape. I don't want to have these hard edges. You may want to keep them. So I'm going to go up here to my shape tool. You notice my rectangle is still selected. That's important. So I click on shape, and then I go to a corner and I click and hold and drag, and it's going to allow me to bevel those corners or round them. That looks about right for me. So now I need to create an inner path just like this where I can fit my stitches onto it. So what I'm going to do is select this shape. I'm going to go to contour tool, click it, and it's going to ask me if I want to do an inner contour or an outside contour. Inside is going to put the same shape smaller on the inside, outside, outside. I want to do an inner contour. And it looks like for me, I'm going to take it up to about 0.17 inches in. Now I've got a nice reference for where my stitches are going to go. But if you notice, this is all one shape, and I don't want it to be one shape. I want to be able to treat this as two separate shapes. So with this selected, you can either press Control K or right click and click Break Contour Group Apart. It also gives you the shortcut menu Control K. I'd recommend getting used to using shortcuts. They're going to save you a lot of time in your designs when they start getting more complicated. But for today, I'll use that. So now you'll notice they are separate shapes. I could just undo several times, click undo to get it back to the center. But another neat feature is if you select these two shapes, so you click on one, hold shift, and select the other. If you press the letter C, that's going to center it left to right. Then press E, is going to center it vertically. So now I want to zoom in on this. So what I'm going to do is press the letter Z, or you can click the zoom tool right here. And I'm going to click and drag a box around where I want to zoom in. This is a really nice feature. It's going to zoom in to where I select. It's a really handy feature. So now I want to create my stitch hole. I'm going to use an ellipse for that. Click on my ellipse, and I'm going to click and drag. You notice it's hard to keep it perfectly constrained as a circle. If you press Control while dragging, it will keep it perfectly constrained. I'm going to make it bigger than I need because it's easier to select for me. Then I'm going to come up here to this menu, and this is going to give me my dimensions of this particular hole. I want to make sure this lock is on. If it's not, and I adjust one of these, it's going to make it oblong. If I leave that locked, it's going to keep these proportions. For this particular stitch, I think I'm going to do 1/16 of an inch, and you can actually type in 1/16, and it's going to size it right for you. That looks pretty darn good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to a range. It may be located in a different spot on your laptop, depending on your layout. So I'm going to go to Arrange, and I'm going to go to Fit Objects to Path. Then using my Pick tool, I'm going to select my small circle, and then I'm going to select the larger path that I want this circle to be applied to. And it's going to ask me how many of these circles I want applied, distributed, uniform, with uniform object spacing. For a typical patch, let's do a low number and then change it to a higher number to show you how to undo it. So I would choose 20, then click Apply. You can tell that's not enough stitches around that path, so I'm going to press Control Z. I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to change it to 45 stitches. Click Apply, and that looks pretty darn good. I think I'm going to leave it as such. So now what I want to do is get rid of this path. So I'm going to click on it and just click Delete. And now it's gone. And what I want to do is group all of these objects together now. To do that, I'm going to press Control A, which means select all. And then I'm going to press Control G, which will group everything. Or you can right click, and where it says ungroup, it would say group. If you want to ungroup, you could press Control U. Okay, so now the computer should be seeing this as one large object. And then when you export this to your vinyl cutter or your laser, you're going to set this particular object to cut. So now that that is one solid shape, I'm going to add an engraving into this, or just add something that the laser is going to see as an engraving. So I'm going to File, Open, and the particular one that I want to use is right here. And all I'm doing is pressing Control A, Control C to copy it. Then I'm going to go back to my patch here and Control V. Now if you remember, I can press Control A. Now to center this, I can just press E, which will center that vertically. Now I press Control A and then I press C, which will center it horizontally. And there you have it. Now I can export this to a vinyl cutter, and if you were doing this with a vinyl cutter, it would go ahead and cut out everything and you wouldn't need stitches. Where I'm using a laser engraver, I'm going to set this up to cut the perimeter and the stitch holes and only engrave the inside. And that is my tutorial on how to create a basic design to export to a vinyl cutter or laser engraver. Thanks.